Hello everyone and welcome to a really awesome game that comes as a suggestion from AGADMATOR, and it's a game from Chess24 Banter Blitz session that Nepomniachtchi held on Chess24. He's playing against the user named AlexGo05, and this is no ordinary game. It's especially since AlexGo5 is playing against World Chess Championship challenger. That is Nepomniachtchi, and this is just, it's really a gem, and it would be a shame for you to miss it. So thank you very much for this suggestion. I don't think I would have found or seen this game if it wasn't for you, so thanks for that. Now let's check it out. Nepo has the white pieces and he opens with e4, and as usual the time format on these Banter Blitz sessions is 3 minutes per and 0 seconds increment. So e4, we have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4. We have bishop to c5 by AlexGo5. And here, yes, I know what you guys are thinking, but no, it did not happen. Nepo played c3, he went for the main line of the Giuoco Piano, and now knight to f6, so just going for the standard stuff. We have d4 by Nepo, e captures on d4, and now comes b4, something that we call on this channel the delayed Evans Gambit, and there is a famous game that features this move. It is Daniil Dubov versus Sergei Karakin. It's been, some have called it the game of 2020. I myself do consider it to be the game of 2020. So if by any chance you haven't seen it, it will be the first link in the description below. Do check it out. The game is just outstanding. So that being said, after b4, the bishop is under attack and the bishop has to move. So here we have bishop back to b6, and now comes e5, same as Dubov played against Karakin. And here, after this knight was under attack, Karakin went knight to e4. But here in this game, we have d5, and this is an improvement, or at least it should be, on Karakin's move against Dubov. And it's still not a new move. This move has been played before, so the bishop is under attack. Now the bishop can either move or we can trade knight for bishop here. Nepo decides to trade. We have e captures on f6, d captures on c4, and now there is a game where queen to e2 check was played, or rather several games, but here Nepo just plays f captures on g7, attacks the rook, and it is already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So let's see how AlexGo5 deals with this f captures and g7 move. So here we have rook to g8. You could throw in a queen to e7 check, but you can always throw this in, so it's not really a problem. And while Nepo could castle here, he doesn't. He says, no, it's not a problem. Let's first get rid of this knight, claim the e5 square for our knight, maybe weaken the d4 square, and then if the queen delivers check, I'm just going to move my king to f1, and then maybe later on I can play h4, h5, h6, maybe even keep this pawn here. So let's see how he goes about this. He plays b5, attacks the knight, and now, of course, Alex throws in queen to e7 check, as one should. Now, going for the queen trade here doesn't really do anything, and it's not really in the spirit of the opening. So here, king to f1, this is, of course, best, and now knight to e5, as the queen now also helps with the defense of this pawn, and now Nepo just grabs the pawn. He plays knight captures on d4, and here Nepo already agrees that his position is really, really bad, and that maybe he can, maybe develop his pieces and miraculously save the game and get some sort of a draw. Instead of knight captures on d4, he also mentions that bishop to a3 might be a nice in-between move. And in some similar lines, like in the Evans Gambit, you might throw in a bishop to a3 now and then. But okay, knight captures on e4. Like we said, this is a 3-minute blitz game. And now bishop to g4, attacking Nepo's queen here on d1. We have f3, taking care of that. And now this move, what's interesting, this move happened instantly. So as soon as f3 was played, black went for a queenside castle. And here he says, I don't care what you do, I'm completely destroying you here. You don't really have a good move to play. The rook isn't getting into the game. King really can't do all that much. The queen is stuck here. The knight cannot move. You could develop this knight or bishop, doesn't really do anything. So for the lack of a better move, Nepo just decides to capture the bishop on g4. He plays f captures on g4, what do you play here as black? Well, there is one extremely good move, and that is queen to f6 with check. So what do you play here? After this queen to f6 check, Nepo played king to g1, but you don't really have any better options. I mean, getting the king into the middle of the board, it doesn't really do anything. Knight f3, that's pointless. The queen is hanging. So king to g1, it's bad, but it's not as bad as maybe the other squares for the king. And now the position is completely winning for black, like I said. So feel free to pause the video here and win this game in the nicest way possible for our friend Alex Go 5 here, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding any move here, because any move is winning in this position, whether you just grab the pawn, whether you go something like knight to d3 and then do whatever, or you can just go for the absolutely most forcing line, and that is rook captures on d4. This was played in the game, and it kind of looks weird because, well, the queen also defends this square, but there is one problem. This queen indirectly defends this square as well, and that's a huge problem. Now, you don't really have an option here if you don't capture the rook. Wherever the rook moves, it's just going to be checkmate. For example, queen moves rook to d1 will be a double check from the rook and from the bishop. Let's say you play queen to c2, it's just rook to d1 checkmate. There's nowhere for the king to go. Well, you have to capture it. So here, Nepo captured on d4, but now comes bishop captures on d4, queen captures, and there really now is nothing else but to win the game. And that, of course, is knight to f3. We reached the position from the thumbnail. The knight now has to be captured, or you don't have to capture it, but then the knight captures queen. So here, Nepo has to capture, and now queen captures on d4, not only winning the queen, but also delivering check and forking this rook on a1. So that's terrible luck for Nepo here. So king to g2, now comes queen captures on a1, and now bishop to h6. And here Nepo said that he's actually reasonably happy because he gets to defend his pawn on g7, and maybe he can still do something here. So here we have c3. And here Nepo remarks that his opponent is playing as well as Mr. Stockfish here, or maybe even better. So what do you do here? Yeah, of course you cannot capture this. The queen is defending. The c3 pawn, c2 is coming. It's a really, really tough position to face. Nepo played rook to c1, but just queen to b2 with check. Okay, the rook is defended by the bishop, but still, it's very, very ugly. King to g3, we have c2 now attacking the knight, and there is no saving the knight, because if you play knight here, then the bishop no longer defends the rook. We can just gobble up the rook here. So instead, Nepo had to give up the knight. Knight to a3 was played, but now just queen captures on a3, and this is, absolute demolition happening here. Rook captures on c2. He does win the pass pawn, but now comes queen to d3, attacking the rook here, also going after the b4 pawn. We have rook to c1 and just queen captures on b5. And here you could resign this, but Nepo is a bit better on the clock, as this was a 3-minute blitz game. Nepo is I think minute and a half, minute 40 seconds, and his opponent is below that, maybe some 35 seconds on the clock. So here we have h4 and now c6, just a nice safety move. We have h5. Nepo continues pushing his kingside pawns. Now queen to e5 with check, king to g2, and now you don't really want to do anything, to prolong the game. You just give up the rook, win the bishop, and then it's queen against rook, and that's all there is. So here bishop captures, we have queen captures, and now rook to e1, but it's all for nothing. King to d7, rook d1 check. Nepo will try to win some time, maybe even try and flag his opponent. Rook to e1, and here, no, I misspoke there. Here the situation on the clock is Nepo around 1 minute versus 35 seconds. So here we have queen to b2 with check, going after this pawn. King g3, now just queen captures on a2. We have h6 by Nepo, trying something. We have c5. Black now starts pushing the other passed pawn, and rook to e5. Here we have king to d6, chasing the rook away. Rook to g5, going after these pawns here. We have c4, and now rook to g7. We have queen to b1, now defending this pawn, but now rook captures on f7. We have c3, the passed pawn continues marching forward, and now rook to f6 with check. King e5, we have rook to f7, and now just c2. And there really isn't all that much you can do now. Rook captures on h7 was played, but now another queen comes into the game. Also, there's now a discovery on the rook. So rook to e7 check, king to f6, and now rook to e4. And here Nepo can basically hope for some sort of a maybe if everything gets gobbled up, then maybe he can get some sort of a stalemate, or maybe his opponent can lose on time. But his opponent is very precise. Queen to g1 check, king to f4, and now queen b to c1. And it was in this position on move 44 that Jan Nepomniachtchi resigned the game. And this incredible victory was achieved by Mr. Alex Go5, who we know nothing about, but that is his username. So here you resign because you only have one legal move, that's rook to e3, and after that the queen captures the rook, and that's just checkmate. The king has no squares, and it's just this is just a masterpiece, how to play against this delayed Evans Gambit line. And Nepo said that if he knew that if he was playing against a player of such caliber, that he would have done something different, but you know, don't we all say that when we lose such a game? So very interesting. Does this sometimes happen to you when you play online? Maybe you feel like, okay, this was just weird. I mean, okay, my opponent maybe is a bit, I mean, it's different when we play because, okay, you play against a higher rated opponent, you might have your doubts. But Nepo, it's very unlikely that he's playing against an unknown higher rated opponent. I mean, there are, you know, like maybe two of them, it could be, but it seems that it happens to everyone. And then maybe you just figure out, okay, maybe I didn't play all that well. But here it's not easy to pinpoint Nepo's mistake just like that. I mean, he could have played some better moves, but it's a blitz game. It's a 3-minute blitz game. Of course, everyone can play a bit of a better move here and there. But there is one position where Nepo could have played a better move, and I know you guys which position that is. So for those of you who get it right, do write in the comment section below, and I will, for those of you who get it first, I will pin your message for everyone else to see. Where was the moment where Nepo could have played a much better move? Have at it. So that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank KD Nuggets, Derek King, Jean Guerin, David Kimura, and Sanmit Amin for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphe saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. The FTX Cup starts tomorrow, so we are going to be covering that, as it's the strongest tournament ever, as they say, and with the biggest prize fund. So yeah. Like I said, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your weekend.